Good day, welcome to the Automotive Dad and welcome to the Suzuki S Cross. Now the S Cross is a bit of an unknown really because you don't see too many on the road. In fact, one of my first experiences of knowing that there weren't that many around was because a guy who was on the outside lane of the motorway swerved into lane 1 to beep and say hello to me and then went off. I've never experienced that in any car before besides something like a Caterham. Underneath, this is powered by a 1.4 litre booster jet engine, which we've seen recently in the Vitara. But also, this one's got a hybrid system, not like a mild hybrid system, which you can get this car in, but this one has a full hybrid system. So at times, the engine fully turns off, none of this 48 volt business, and you just kind of cruise along in EV silentness. Now this is an Ultra, you have two, Motion and Ultra. This is the highest spec, the Ultra, finished in energetic red. And this car you can have on the road for as little as, and I mean this, £99 a month with a reasonable deposit, or it's about £30,000 on the road if you want to pay all of it up front. So let's have a bit of a look around this car. Now the front is the biggest update to the 2023 S Cross because there has been S Cross before, but it just didn't look as good. This looks just right and actually has almost German-esque design cues. It looks really, really good. Nice headlight design, just good curves all round, sharp, sleek design where it needs to be. This is a front end which doesn't look like, and I say this with the best intent, Suzuki sometimes has some very questionable design standards. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Sometimes they just push the boundaries a little bit and it can look a little bit strange or a little bit dulled down. But this looks striking and looks great. Side profile, nothing too shouty, even though it's a four-wheel drive, and we'll get to more of the four-wheel drive action in this. Besides this, it doesn't really shout anything massively four-wheel drive, especially with 17-inch diamond cut alloys, which, although to be fair, they ride the road really well and they're actually not pothole prone to be damaged, but it doesn't really shout anything too OTT. The side profile of the car just looks nice. It's got nice running lines down the side. And again, energetic red just looks really, really cool in this. The back end, I guess, is just as kind of out there as the front, but not in as much of a good way, because whilst it does still look quite nice, it's not as nice as the front, but it presents itself in a nice way. This isn't a copied design. This is Suzuki through and through. It lets you know it's a Suzuki, it's an S Cross, and there's nothing really more to the back. It is, I find these light clusters a little bit overwhelmingly big. They could be a bit more sleek and less out there. That would kind of finish off the back end for me, but otherwise it's quite good. Obviously, tow bar for multiple things, towing things and keeping tailgaters away from the back of your car. Inside is pretty reasonable. Whilst some of the buttons aren't as high quality as you would see from other things within this class, this segment, generally it's really, really good. It's pretty comfortable, it's pretty well put together, and it's full of safety and tech. Your seating position is pretty lovely. Any blind spots are mitigated, at least on the Ultra, by the fact that you've got blind spot sensors, but beyond that you've got little window cutouts here so you can see quite a lot. Ultra also has a 360 surround view camera, which makes parking this an absolute bliss. Reverse and front means that you can get as close as you need to stuff. Genuinely, it's a really lovely place to be. The sound system's pretty decent. There's actual buttons for Climatronic, but not, aside from the steering wheel, for the stereo, which gets a little bit annoying. Wireless CarPlay, heated seats. The front's just a really cool place to be, and for longer drives, it's very, very comfortable. Find yourself in the back and legroom, really reasonable. Headroom, really good. More than enough room for two 360 spin seats in the back, easily. You can fit 3 adults in the back, but only if you don't have a car seat, because obviously car seats are a little bit wider, take up a little bit more room than conventional people would, just from a safety point of view. So from that aspect, if you do have a car seat in the back, you can only fit 1 passenger. But that's really about it. Panoramic sunroof means these little ones in the back, and really anyone that you have in the back has a really, really nice place to be. You see where I'm going with this. Find yourself at the back and find yourself in a land of mysterious spaces, which is quite spacious, but could be even more spacious. Once you open this door, plenty of space, plenty of cubby holes to put dirty shoes, dirty wellies, multiple prams, as I found out. Underneath here, where you would expect to find a full-size spare wheel, there isn't one, but it's equally filled up with polystyrene. So all this space under here, which could be used to give you a lower load area, isn't utilised. So there is a lot more potential, but put those rear seats down and you're literally into like 600 litres of actual load luggage space. It's pretty decent. You join me in a very quiet inside because the car's in EV mode, which is great because around town it means that your economy isn't garbage. So this has got 115 horsepower, which is nothing massive to shout about. Torque-wise, it's got 138 Newton meters and a 0 to 62 time 13.5 seconds. So nothing mega fast, but if it's, you know, economy you're looking for and safety and frugality, this kind of gives you everything that you want in that regard. See, it's just gone back into EV mode here. Now, from the actual drive aspect, this doesn't feel like as big of a vehicle as it is. You do get slight 4x4 vibes every now and then, but even if you drive this in all-wheel drive mode, bearing in mind this has got all grip, so it can send 50-50 to both sets, front and back, it means that you've got grip, but it doesn't really drive or feel like a 4x4. It's pretty reasonable in that aspect. Now, when you're driving around town and you put your foot down to go off, there is a little bit of lag. It's not the fastest off the mark, even though it has an electric aid. But that said, once it's going, it's pretty unnoticeable when it goes between running on the internal combustion engine and running on the hybrid electric battery system. So as a result, when you're driving along, it's really smooth and it feels somewhat refined. However, when you put your foot down to go, there isn't all that much go. There's enough, don't get me wrong, but if you're looking for something with loads of speed, this is probably not it. When it comes to dealing with potholes and rubbish UK road conditions, this does exceptionally well, genuinely, at dealing with it. This week has been a mix of brilliant sunshine and literal floods, and it excelled at both. When it came to some really slightly concerning floodwater that a lot of vehicles weren't going through, this kind of just does it with absolute ease. When you're sat on the motorway at 70 miles an hour, it's quiet and peaceful inside. That good sound system, meaning you can listen to all the tunes to your heart's content. The steering has a good feel. The brake doesn't feel too hybrid-y, but it does at times give you that kind of hybrid sense of, oh, am I just recharging my battery or am I braking right now? Everything's at your fingertips. Good headlights, good visibility. This is a very reasonable drive. So whilst I don't think you can be taking this round Silverstone anytime soon, when it comes to your everyday driving, why not? Because you can get up to like 55 miles per gallon around town if you're really careful, and on the motorway you'll never really see anything below 48 if you drive normally. If you have to drive with a little bit more muster, a little bit more get up and go, then yeah, it will drop down, but any vehicle would be like that. For a 1.4 litre booster jet petrol engine, in a vehicle which, let's be honest, this isn't a massively light vehicle, it actually doesn't feel as slow as perhaps it is. So maybe Suzuki aren't being completely truthful on their figures, because this feels a little bit quicker than that tiny horsepower figure that I gave you at the beginning. Can you ask for more out of a vehicle when you need to do all the family essential seats that quite easily wipe clean? I mean, Suzuki have nailed it in that aspect. They really get building a utilitarian vehicle which is still comfortable, not a fully utilitarian spec. So as a summary, what do I think of this car? I mean, £30,000 on the road for the amount of tech that this has is pretty phenomenal. The fact that with a reasonable deposit, it's under £100 a month. Not everywhere can offer that to you, but one of my local dealerships was advertising that for, not an Ultra, for a Motion, but still a pretty reasonable fee for quite a lot of car. There are other cars in the segment which might feel slightly better quality and might get slightly better fuel economy in certain instances, but generally, to be able to offer something which is getting between 48 and 55 miles per gallon in almost any driving situation is very reasonable. I think this is a very good underdog, which not enough people really consider. While some of the design quirks are not quirky enough for me, aka this back end could use a bit more refining, the overall look of the car is pretty good. And as a family aspect goes, this is absolutely phenomenal. It's like the perfect family car. Lots of space, easy to get the kids in and out of, and it doesn't look too out of place anywhere you park it. This fits in with the segment, doesn't stand out, fits in very nicely and is capable of doing pretty much anything that you ask it to. So Generally, I think this is a phenomenally good car, especially when you consider the fact that it's up against competitors which, for this amount of tech, are considerably more money.